Carbon removal matters. There's no way around it. If we do all we possibly can to achieve our first 5 objectives, we'll still have at least 10 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions to clean up in 2050, and every year thereafter. The longer we wait to cut emissions, the more carbon will be left over to remove, a prescription for planetary disaster. The world's at code red for both nature-based carbon removal, which involves helping forests recover, and for engineered efforts, such as direct air capture. So why are we failing? For starters, companies are getting no guidance. Today, the technology is in the exciting early stages, but expensive. We need to build out carbon removal on a scale that would make a dent in global emissions. To take the next step, a buying spree is in order. Companies have pre-purchased 5 million tons, a sliver of an iota of what's required. And even fewer tons have been actually removed. In short, we need more ambitious purchases and faster delivery on removals. For companies venturing into this new terrain, basic questions remain unanswered. How much should a company buy? And when should they start buying? To catalyze the market, more removal needs to be bought today. Experts and standard setters should guide companies on how much to purchase. Speed and scale calls for companies to pay for the removal of 0.01% of their emissions and to scale up purchases each year. In 2023, in an aptly titled landmark report, Integrity Matters, the United Nations defined net zero in real-world terms. Here's what they said. Net zero is achieved when residual emissions, the greenhouse gases left over after a company cuts all it can, are fully negated by permanent removals. So let's break it down. Emissions means all scopes of emissions, from a company's operations to its supply and value chains. And it covers all greenhouse gases, including methane. To be credible, removal must be durable. It must keep carbon out of the atmosphere for the long haul, ideally for tens of thousands of years. Until emitters commit to abide by the UN's definition for net zero, with third-party verification of carbon claims, we'll continue to get a distorted picture of progress. So what about offsets or credits? With carbon markets taken off, it's important to point out there are 3 kinds of credits: reduction, protection, and removal. Reduction projects fund efforts like renewable energy deployment. Protection projects help preserve forests and oceans. But for companies to reach net zero and truly offset their emissions, they must remove leftover emissions permanently. And so speed and scale is calling for a radical expansion of investment in carbon removal, from a few $100 million in 2023 to $20 billion per year by 2030. To reach net zero by 2050 and to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, we need both immediate emission cuts and down-the-road carbon removal. In other words, we need to get ahead of the curve to invest now for what we'll need later.